Today I have this Dick Smith oscilloscope. It's about a 6.5 megahertz, catalog Q-1280. Just a little sort of hobbyist type oscilloscope. It's got the old sort of round style tube in it. These look to have come out around 1980, and by 1984 in their catalogue they're not selling them anymore. So it's a bit of an old one from back when I was a kid and stuff. Good cheap little hobbyist oscilloscope, only about $200 it was. I've got the original. This is the Dick Smith 8182 catalogue. I've got a bit of a colour advert for it here. 6.5 megahertz laboratory oscilloscope. For technical information, refer to page 61. This is it, the new Dick Smith laboratory oscilloscope designed for Australia to outperform oscilloscopes costing much more. With a usable bandwidth to beyond 6.5 megahertz, it's the ideal Crow for everyone. Crow being cathode ray oscilloscope. Comes complete with comprehensive user manual. Unfortunately I didn't get that with it. All new solid state, high sensitivity, compact and reliable. All this for only $199. Well, obviously the tube isn't solid state, but I think that means the rest of the circuitry in there is all solid state, which by 1980 you would hope it would be. Then you've got this little ad here for a little electronics project designed by, what is it, Electronics Australia, February 1981. Dual trace adapter, so you can actually convert it to a dual trace Crow or oscilloscope. A respectable 1 megahertz bandwidth. But yeah, it's $59.50 for the kits and nearly $60, so it's over a quarter of the price of the actual oscilloscope itself just to adapt that. But for most people a single trace would have been good enough, and this is the more information further into the catalogue on this one. Also got a nice little Hitachi 15 megahertz oscilloscope for $638, which is more the sort of money you're paying back then, which was quite a bit of money in 1980 or early 80s. So yeah, ask for our free colour brochure. Unfortunately Dick Smith don't even exist anymore, so we won't be seeing one of them in a hurry. What a success story. In the 12 months since we introduced our own laboratory oscilloscope, we've sold over 1,000 of them. Obviously there must be some reason for this success. Here are just some of them. Retrace blanking gives a much clearer display. Lower threshold triggering, less than half a division of 5 megahertz. Sharper focus, especially at high frequencies. Fiberglass PCB, so it's quite well built in there. Even for a cheapo one, it's not just a cheap circuit board. Colour coded input terminals and usable response to beyond 6.5 megahertz. And the specs are DC to 6.5 plus. I guess, you know, it probably does go a bit higher, but they can only really guarantee it to that amount. Vertical deflection sensitivity 10 millivolts a division. Horizontal deflection sensitivity 500 millivolt per division. Time-based sweep frequency 10 Hz to 100 kHz in 4 ranges. Sync internal external. Size 202 width, 160 high, 306 millimeters wide. Depth. Weight approximately 3.8 kilos. Now interesting, this one just has banana socket inputs on it. That's how they originally came out. The one I've got here is actually someone's done a couple of mods. It's got a BNC input like a more modern oscilloscope. It's also got this calibration 280 switch, a center 3-position toggle switch, one with a center position, maybe to turn it off I guess, or put it to either of those calibration things. I'm not sure what they're actually connected to. Maybe they do something internally. I'll have to have a look inside it later. So that's, and there's basically nothing on this oscilloscope. Just says Dick Smith designed for Australia and the catalogue number. Nothing on it to say. There's a few adjustments underneath here and nothing much on the back. Just a serial number and another Dick Smith label. So it doesn't say what country it was made in. Doesn't say who made it. There's no model numbers or anything obvious on it. I did see a little thing in, I think it was in Electronics Australia or ETI magazine I found on this, and this little panel here you can actually rotate the tube from the back here to, if it's, you know, slightly out, with a graticule on the front. And then we've got our focus and intensity, Dick Smith's old telephone number there, and there's a couple other trim pot and trim cap adjustments here vertical DC balance, horizontal DC balance, horizontal gain, compensation, and then the 1/10th, 1/100th inputs must be for setting them, calibrating them. Basically got a power on off switch, DC and AC coupling, got your ground, your vertical input, got a external sync or horizontal input, just our vertical gain attenuator, so you can just 1-to-1 drop it to a 10th, drop it to a 100th, drop it down to ground, I guess, so you can center your, using the position here, you can center your scan in the middle there. Got internal or external sync, and then we've got sweep range in hertz, 10 to 100, 100 to 1 kilohertz, 1k to 10k, 10k to 100k, or external. Yeah, sweep vary, and that's about it. Nothing particularly exciting there. Looks like in that catalogue they had a, if I get the right catalogue, page 66, they actually had an adapter there to go from BNC to the two banana plug inputs. Smart little adapter plugs in the input terminals, a Dick Smith lab oscilloscope, converting the banana sockets to BNC as used on more expensive oscilloscopes. So that was considered a fancy feature back then, which is interesting. So accessories from more expensive oscilloscopes can be used with it. Well, I don't think I've ever seen an oscilloscope probe that didn't see. The one they've got is got a BNC on it, so I don't think I've ever seen a proper probe. I guess people may have used it with other things on the input, but I think every oscilloscope probe ever made that I've ever seen, there may be ones with banana plugs on them, but you would think that's not the smartest idea, because it might introduce capacitance or something, change the response at different frequencies or something. So I think that's why they normally use a BNC, because if you've got leads that you can separate and stuff, it's probably not going to do it real good. But I mean, just for a basic hobby oscilloscope, it probably doesn't matter that much anyway. You're not using it for really accurate measurements, I wouldn't think, more just to see if signals are there and how much and that sort of thing. So, but anyway, I couldn't find any info on it, but then I had a look in their 1977-78 catalogue of what they had for sale. I was actually trying to see if this one was for sale back then. I did find out later on in an Electronics Australia or something magazine that, I think it's January 1980, they said this Dick Smith one's coming out in a month, so it would have come out around February 1980, which matches with what it said in the other one. But I found this little Trio CO1303D oscilloscope, which looks to be exactly the same thing. It just doesn't have the Dick Smith badge on it, slightly different knobs on it. But other than that, I mean, the picture's not the greatest here, but I looked it up on the internet as well, and it looks like it's exactly the same gear, even though I think they only say it's up to 5 megahertz, so maybe they did improve it a little bit. But it looks like Dick Smith probably just got onto Trio and said, can you rebadge these things, or maybe Trio were going to stop making them, and Dick Smith either got them to make some more for him, or got some other factory to make them. Don't know, but Dick Smith obviously decided to rebrand them, which is weird, because I wouldn't have thought Trio would let anyone rebrand their stuff. Like I say, it might have been going to be a discontinued model or something, so Dick Smith got them built for himself. But yeah, it's basically the same thing. It says, except it says to 5 megahertz. It's got a few more specs, like the input impedance 1 megaohm, 35 picofarads, overshoot less than 5% at 100 kilohertz square wave, max input voltage 600 volt peak to peak, or 300 volt DC plus AC peak, attenuator continuously variable. So maybe, no, I think it's got the same attenuator on it. And yeah, so this is an all solid state 75, well that's kind of a lie, but anyway, the display isn't solid state, but everything else, 75mm oscilloscope. I thought it was around a 70mm tube in it. Vertical sensitivity the same, lightweight and portable, proved to be a handy and reliable instrument in electronic equipment assembly centres, school classrooms and amateur radio stations for a wide range of scope apps. It looks like they also made a version of these with some sort of amateur radio fitting on the back. I forget exactly what it was for now, but there was a modified version of these 1303s. I think it was a 1303G or something. But it looks like that's what this thing basically is. Whether it was actually made by Trio or not, I'm not sure. But the Dick Smith one is basically the same oscilloscope, just with a different front panel, I guess, and different knobs, and maybe slightly better specifications. So might as well have a look inside this. I've already removed most of the screws. Be interesting to see what it's actually built like. And there we go. Yeah, nothing on the inside of that. Still not even a part number on the power transformer, and the circuit board doesn't seem to have anything much written on it, but it is a fiberglass PCB as promised. Looks quite nicely built. Yeah, some old, what have we got? Marcon and Elite electrolytic capacitors, not sure, haven't really seen them around. Alpha potentiometers, again not a brand I'm familiar with. What has someone done here? Someone's put a BNC on the front and soldered it across to this, the AC-DC switch, basically across to that red vertical input terminal, I think. Or is it? No, is that wire? Yeah, there is a wire. Oh yeah, so there must be in the AC position. It's got this capacitor coupling to the red terminal. And then the DC, it's directly coupled maybe. Well, it looks like this one's directly into the centre of that switch anyway. I'm trying to work out where that goes from there. Maybe I would have thought the centre's normally the output on the switch, but yeah, the switch goes from the capacitor back up to this input attenuator, which probably switches back to some of these resistors or something to attenuate it. But anyway, even this tube, I can't see a label on the tube anywhere, which is odd. Ah yeah, so this has got metal brackets back to that back plate, so if you would twist the back plate, it rotates the whole tube. Inside the front here, it's only got like some little felt pads to hold the front of it in place. Behind the front panel. But yeah, nothing overly interesting in there. Someone's modified it with this switch. Got a bit of coax cable which goes across the little board over there, and a couple of resistors, and then that goes back to a position on the attenuator switch. Looks like someone's added a resistor to ground, and we've got a couple of 4001, 4001 chips on that board with a couple of trim pots and caps and stuff. Looks like two little identical circuits in there. I wonder if that board's got anyone's markings on it. Doesn't look like it. So someone's obviously had a bit of a fiddle with that. The only other odd thing is this power transformer's mounted on a funny angle. Don't know if it's possible to see down in there, but there's a mounting, one of the mounting screws is quite long and has a nut about 10mm up it, and then the transformer sat on and another nut above that. I think it's just to allow this power cord to go underneath it and without getting squashed between the transformer and the panel or something. It might be for some safety reasons or something they've had to build it like that. It's a bit odd, but not the end of the world. No one would normally see inside the thing. But yeah, so there's not a lot to that. I can switch the thing on, I guess, and have a look at it running. It does seem to run, this one. I need to put a probe on it. At least it's got a BNC now, so it saves messing around with adapters and stuff. It does take a while to warm up, is the only thing I noticed with it. Much longer than you'd think. Here it finally comes, so it's quite a slow warm up on that tube. So normally you'd set that to the middle of the graticule there. And if I put the old finger test on it, yeah, probably if I let go of the case I'll get it a bit. Yeah, we've got a bit of 50 Hertz that I'm picking up there. Yeah, so if we turn the vertical gain down, So that's probably what they mean by, well, that's not a constantly variable attenuator, I don't think, but maybe it counts. So we can adjust the vertical gain there as well as divide it up there on the attenuator switch. Not the best looking sine wave I've ever seen, so maybe some of the lights or something around here is putting a bit of rubbish down the line. I guess I should hook it up to a yeah, I should stretch it out a bit, I'll lock it. Hook it up to a signal generator here. And I'm going to need an RCA lead for that. I guess if I took the BNC adapter off it, I could just hook straight to the socket and poke it in there. So there we have a, what should be around 1 kilohertz. Only problem is I can't clip onto that. I'll put an RCA lead on there, then I can actually clip to it permanently, hopefully. No, except my crow's missing, the probe is missing the end bit. What have I done with that? It'll be lying around here somewhere, but anyway, I should be able to hold it on with one finger, and that's around 1 kilohertz. It was. So that's on our 100 to 1K range. And position seems to work. The switch is a bit diggy, I think. Ah. Okay, if I go to that ground position, is it only in that it does it? Yeah, someone's modified it so that ground position, so they're just the square wave oscillators by the look of it. That little modification someone's done, they've put a couple of different frequency square waves in there. Well, they say to calibrate it, so you've got a reference signal, I guess, to work with. And that's off. And that was some much lower frequency, I think. Yeah, that switch is definitely a bit dicky. Not really much of the up part of the signal showing there. Just the bottom bit, so I don't know if that's the problem or not. Yeah, I'd hope a square wave would show a bit better than that, but anyway. Still fine with the sine wave. Actually, I can switch to this frequency generator to square. Yeah, no, it's not very good at showing the full square wave there by the look of it. But you get the idea, I guess. But yeah, it's a good little basic audio oscilloscope or something, it'd be fine. Does the job. You can see the signals there and what amplitude it is, what frequency it is roughly, and that it's clean. So that's a lot cleaner than what I was giving it with my finger, so picking up the rubbish out of the air. But yeah, it's an interesting little bit of old Dick Smith electronics history there. And interesting to know it was an actual trio, it wasn't just some Taiwanese knockoff or something, random made sort of thing. I mean, it might have been a Taiwanese knockoff in the sense that he's got them to make them the same as the trios. But yeah, probably made in Taiwan or Hong Kong or somewhere like that back in those days. But Bit hard to know, there's absolutely nothing to say. Could even be Japanese, but yeah, I'm surprised the tube doesn't have an obvious marking, but it might just be hidden under this. It's actually got a bit of felt around it. Hidden under this cover thing, which is probably just magnetic shielding or something. These tubes, I think, are electrostatically deflected, so they don't have, like in the TV, you'd have a yoke here, a deflection coil, bunch of copper wire and ferrite and stuff on the outside of the tube with a different connection. This is just a metal cover of some sort, or to hold it and rotate it. All the deflection is basically done, I think there's plates inside the tube that deflect the electron beam by putting voltage on it, or on them, and that'll pull your beam, and that's how they basically put a sweep signal and stuff into there and do it that way. So a bit different to the, like a colour TV tube. Anyway, that's interesting old bit of gear. I thought I'd grab it. Only cost me about $10 or something, so I thought I'd grab it. I would have loved one of these as a kid, even though I probably wouldn't have that many uses for it. But this was, you know, dates back to before I was even into electronics. But would have made a good little hobby oscilloscope. And again, like it says, they would have been sold to schools and stuff. Just a nice little cheap classroom one, nice and small, easily moved around. I mean, this is the sort of thing a technician could have took into a home or something if they wanted to try and fix a television or something. Not that you'd normally do work at that sort of level in the home, but you could if you wanted to. If you had a fault needing an oscilloscope, this would be a perfect little thing to have in your van or something. Do the job for most of the work you're going to see in that sort of area. Again, with audio gear, this would be a good little one for people who want to mess around with audio. Don't need anything more fancy than that. But interestingly, they seem to be on eBay and stuff on the net for sale for nearly as much as what this cost, the $200 it cost in the first place. So I would have thought you could get a lot more for your money these days in terms of digital oscilloscopes and stuff. Why you'd want to pay that sort of money for one of these old ones, I don't know. But you know, I picked this up cheap just as a bit of a novelty, and it's good to see a bit of old Dick Smith gear since Dick Smith is no longer with us as a company. Yeah, this is right back in these days as a heyday as an electronics dealer, electronic part dealer and stuff, so before they went all consumer goods and stuff under Woolworths, who owned them. But I mean, this is, yeah, really old school 1970s stuff, old mono cassette players and echo sound tuner. So yeah, certainly some old gear, old car cassettes, and you can even buy an AM car radio back then. Whole $59, which again was quite a bit. I don't think you get a cassette player, so even one of these external sort of component type ones, it is auto reverse at least, but $130. Certainly not the cheapest. God, you could even get a radar detector back then, so certainly makes for interesting reading, these old catalogues. I don't think I even had many stores back then. Sydney, Brisbane, Melbourne, Bankstown and Gore Hill. Funny looking old shop that one is. It's actually got a colour TV, but it looks like it's displaying something. Or is it a black and white TV even? I think it's actually a black and white portable, so it might be... Looks like it's got Pong or something on it. One of the old computer games. Oh, that's actually Ultronics. That's Ultronics, was a Dick Smith reseller over in Perth. Oh, that's interesting. So that's where Ultronics came from. They obviously sold Dick Smith and later set up Ultronics as a competitor to Dick Smith. Service department in Sydney. Disappointed to see he's got a Hitachi or something crowing, not one of these, but not much of a data section by the look of it. You've got your Phillips resistor chart. Oh no, there is a data section in this one. Only a few pages by the look of it, but still some transistor data. This used to be one of the most useful things in the Dick Smith catalogue. It was clever advertising by Dick Smith to make their catalogue a useful reference source, so you'd always be reminded of Dick Smith when you wanted to look up some info on parts and stuff, or how to make a little voltage regulator with a 3-terminal IC in it, 7805 and the like. God, yeah, some old UA709 IC. They weren't around for too long, I don't think, after this. But anyway, that's an interesting bit of old test gear and something I'll stick on the shelf as a display piece. Is about all I'll probably use it for. Oops, my socket's come loose now. Probably should really remove all that modification stuff, but I think I'll just leave it in there for the moment. Might get rid of those horrible orange stickers off the front, don't look very good. And yeah, she'll sit it on the shelf somewhere. Thanks for watching.